Hello and welcome to the RMW Rock My World podcast. I'm Tony Fennell. As always, with me are my two co-hosts out there in Chicago. We've got Chuck Macack. How are you, Chuck?
I live under the weather, but we'll weather through this.
Well, you see, what's happening here is the weather's changing, my mate. It's almost over, and I got to say I'm happy that summer's saying bye-bye, because I don't like summer.
Yeah, they just gave us our forecast for this week. We're back up to the 90s this week.
What?
Yep.
All right. It won't be like that in England. Mike, how you doing? By the way, in the UK, we've got our UK contingent, Mr. Mike Litson. How are you, Mike?
I'm good. And yeah, you're right. It's raining.
Yes. I have to try and remember why I left England. No, it wasn't to escape the police, which most people think. Here's a story that we love at Rock My World. So, there's this young kid from Houston, Texas, who's got an absolutely, totally cool dad who wanted to take him to see Tool perform live. Now, obviously, that would mean a late night for the young fella. So his dad contacted his son's music teacher to make sure it was cool with her if he potentially missed a school rehearsal the next morning for music practice. Enter the coolest teacher in the world. So this is how the story played out in Reddit, guys. The dad wrote, "Taking my 12-year-old son to see Tool in Houston. My wife emailed his band director to make sure that he wouldn't miss any practice or rehearsal the next day." This was her response. So the teacher wrote this, guys. "If there is, Tool is a good reason to miss it." Adding, "My only response, take me with you guys." She added, "I'm super jealous that he'll have this opportunity and I will not punish him for missing for Tool. How's he doing? Do you like their new album?" Now, guys, this has to be the coolest teacher ever. By the way, the dad is pretty darn cool. But this teacher, come on, she wants to go to the Tool concert with the student. Who's going?
Yeah,
Anyone?
That's pretty badass. I mean, I wish I had a music teacher like that in elementary school.
Well, I can remember going to school after seeing a concert when I was like 14. I went in and I stunk a beer and they sent me home. It wasn't even that I was tired. It's that I stunk a beer and they went, what is going on? I was like, well, I went to see a gig last night and they were like, home now. What about you, Mike?
But I mean, we've all skipped school to go see gigs, right? I remember me and a buddy of mine called Tom back in high school, and we went in and went in with fake notes that we'd had to leave early to go to a funeral for a friend, which technically wasn't a lie. I mean, because we were going to go see Funeral for a Friend.
Oh,
but
Sorry to hear that.
But yeah, and you know that wasn't the only time that we ditched out to go to gigs, but that's the one that always sticks out in my mind because, as you're right, Chuck, that's exactly what the teacher said was, "Sorry to hear that. No worries, lads. See you later."
That's brutal. I was going to say, yeah, and I'm going to hand off to you afterwards, Chuck. I was going to say, one of my first school skips for gigs was, check this out, was AC/DC with Bon Scott at Stafford Bingley Hall in England. And the opening band were these young kids. And I was like, who the hell is Def Leppard? And it was the boys. The drummer, I think, was 13, just turned 14. And they were monsters.
Wow.
AC/DC, Def Leppard opening for him is killer. I mean,
you know, it's funny. My first unparent attended concert was Scorpions with Def Leppard opening on the High and Dry tour at the Aragon Ballroom, which is, a third of their quarter or a fifth the size of what Def Leppard would play now. They weren't even old enough to buy booze.
But I bet they got their share of groupies backstage. Oh, I shouldn't have said that, but I'll guarantee it's true. It wasn't Joe Elliott was like, he was still 42 then, wasn't
he? Yeah.
He always looked like the oldest guy in the band because he was. But Mike, what was your first gig you ever saw? Just digressing slightly.
Well, that's a bit of an awkward one. It was Lost Prophets. And we don't really talk about them anymore for some strange reason.
Him and Gary Glitter, you never mention those, especially in the same room.
Yeah, exactly. It was good. It was before we went weird. So
no, I'm sure he was at it then, Mike. It's just that we didn't know. What about you? What about you, Chuck? Your first gig?
My first concert. I mean, I remember in grade school, off Broadway and Styx played the high school. While they were local bands. That was like the first time I ever went to a show. But my first big show, Kiss. My mom took me to see Kiss at the amphitheater.
What a lucky boy you are.
And then after that the next one was Priest. Judas Priest, my mom took me to see.
Jesus. Okay, so check this out. Then
she bowed out of taking me to concerts, so then I was on my own.
I did 2 in 1 week, and you ready for this? Tangerine Dream, and then Emerson, Lake and Palmer, prog rock heaven.
This would have been back in Birmingham then, Tony.
It was, yeah, and it was only because my mates were really into it, and I was like, yeah, all right, yeah, I'll come.
Well,
and I just wanted.
Oh, sorry, come on, carry on.
No, I just wanted to see a gig, and then the gig after that was Priest and Iron Maiden opened up for him.
I saw that tour too. That was the second time I saw Priest.
Brutal. I mean, brutal. That was Paul Di'Anno at his best, kicking ass every night.
Was that the Killers tour?
I think it was. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, Bruce Dickinson and everybody else that has come since, and obviously Dickinson is your main guy since, nowadays, but Paul Di'Anno back in the days there was like a rock punk lunatic. I don't know if you've ever seen that incarnation, Mike. I'm sure you've seen them online or whatever, but I'm telling you that it was a band that was just playing. It was almost punk rock, but they could really play. I mean, it was really, really, really entertaining. And he wasn't the greatest singer in the world, but he brought it, right, Chuck?
Oh yeah. Nothing against Dickinson.
Oh, the guy's got pipes.
One thing I will say though is one thing I do remember from like the first gig, aside from the awkwardness, is that it was at the Apollo in Manchester, which, as I'm sure you know, Tony, actually has fantastic acoustics. And I think like the first 4 or 5 gigs I went to see were all there. And the first time I went to a different venue, it was a massively rude awakening, because most of the venues in the UK, the sound is garbage.
Right. That was Stafford Bingley Hall with that AC/DC Leopard gig I was just telling you about. It literally is a cattle shed. That's what it was. There was absolutely no acoustics whatsoever, but you felt it was like a massive amount of power coming at you, because obviously those chords from AC/DC, from the moment they step out, it's unrelentless. But the sound was just a disgrace. And you're right, when you get into a room like the old Odeons and stuff like that in England, Hammersmith Odeon, it's so dead in there. You're hearing every note, and you're feeling the power, but you're actually hearing the songs, as opposed to this row hitting you in the face, and you're going, "Yep, I think that's Highway to Hell." But yeah, I mean, Chuck, what about you? The gigs in Chicago, I've actually been in Chicago quite a lot during the last 10 years. I think most of those gigs have got their shit together with regards to acoustics.
Yeah, most places. I mean, Aragon sounds pretty cool. It's an old ballroom. And, the Rosemont Horizon, I don't even know what the hell they call it now, the United Center, or I don't even know. Can't keep up with all the sponsors. But that one in the beginning was awful, and they changed it. Yeah, I don't think there's too many places that are just awful, except for the outdoor places like Poplar Creek, we're gone. That place sounded like garbage. And then there's the World Theater, which is now, I don't even know what the hell the name of it is, but that place was awful.
Well, there's no excuses anymore, and people are paying, and we've talked about this again and again during our podcast. The price of tickets, you better be getting value for money. And you better be able to hear.
Well, I mean, you say this, but like, this is only going back about 2 years ago. I went to see Alkaline Trio, actually, because a couple of mates of mine were fans of them, went back when we were kids, and tickets weren't expensive. Thought, why not? And we went to a place in Leeds to see them. And dear God, the sound quality was atrocious, and it was not their fault. This room was just... it was a square room, that with plasterboard walls and a massive high ceiling, and it's just like no care had been given whatsoever to the acoustics of this room, and you could tell it sounded like a mess. And if you got like right by the speakers, it was like, okay, this sounds fine because it's coming up 2 feet before it hits me. It was loud as all hell, but.
Well, those gigs are affectionately known as toilets.
Exactly, but they're still around, though.
Well, if I can touch on another thing, and I'm going to push you on this one, Chuck. I mentioned Tool earlier on. The new album's out.
Man, it's I was never an enormous Tool fan. I always liked like the mainstream stuff, and I went into this record going, all right, well, let's check it out. And man, it is an awesome record, and 13 years to get it out. I read an interview with Maynard, and they asked him what took him so long, and he said that it's just perfection. It was never ready to come out.
That's scary. I mean, I can always equate this, and forgive me if I'm wrong, and this is just my opinion. The days of Zeppelin, Sabbath. Okay, so let's go to their recording schedules. So you'd record an album January, you would basically get it mixed end of February, it's out. Live and die by that record 1 year later. Now, you got to remember, you've actually got to get back into the studio and record. So you got to write, record, and mix again. The next year, there's another album out. You didn't have time to second guess. You didn't have time to sit there and edit for 3 days on a guitar part in Pro Tools, which is, it's a big part of the Tool sound, that whole ultra tight stuff. But isn't there a little bit of a disconnect? Because I quite like the idea of having to go in and make a record. And when you're flat out, you don't have the time. And nowadays, I do understand that, when Maiden go on tour, they go on tour for 2 years. So even if an album every 2 years should be part of your recording schedule, do you think it's a bit crazy to leaving it that long? I mean, could it have been perfection 7 years ago, and he just missed the boat?
And he even said in the interview that at year 8 it was probably done.
Right.
I mean, and I think it was more not the recording process, but the writing process. Just being 100% happy with the songs. I mean, who knows? They could have recorded 500 songs, in that period of time to figure out what was the best record.
That's a good point.
And we don't know. He doesn't really go into detail about the process. I'm sure maybe will come out later. But they also, I think they just timed it perfectly, because they also released the whole catalog to streaming finally.
Yeah, so
and to YouTube, and that stuff was never there. So I guess if you're going to go big, go big and release the new record and all this hoopla around it, and the new world, new tour, and which is selling out like everywhere.
How many tracks are on the album, Chuck?
I don't know. I mean, I listened through it once and I was like, wow, this is cool. And I listened to it again.
Well, you'd expect at least 10 after a 13-year wait.
I mean, you say this, but it is a Tool album. Like, some of those are going to be some of those are 10 minutes long, aren't they? It's actually 10 albums on the 10 tracks on the album.
Oh,
but,
okay.
You've got to remember that there's quite a few that are past 10 minutes. So
it's not like everything. I don't think there was. I think there was only 3 songs that were 4 minutes or less.
Oh wow! Didn't they release this with like a crazy player as well? There was a deluxe box or something.
Well, I don't know. The main release that I saw, I had a band in the studio and they brought it with, and it has like this cool LED screen playing stuff on the CD cover. Man, that was so cool. I'm like, I love when bands, hey, if we're going to put this out, let's go big. They were the old gate, the gatefold sleeves. You know what I mean? Where you opened them up, there was lyrics in there. I'm talking albums here. I'm talking big fat vinyl records. But you opened them up, and there was the pictures, there was the lyrics, there was tons of credits, there was tons to read. And by the time you'd finished the album, an hour and 15 minutes later, you just finished reading the liner notes. I mean, that was. I always felt like I was getting a deal then. Bands don't, it's so easy to churn out product now that I think that's an oversight sometimes with bands. Obviously, Tool have gone one above, and they've tried to create a bit of. Well, I think a lot of bands who don't put a lot of time in their packaging, they should just go digital on it.
I agree.
I mean, I like buying CDs because of the sound quality. I mean, you have to earn my money. Like it has to be a great record for me to buy it.
Mike,
to go out and actually buy the CD.
Mike, do you buy CDs, vinyl, or?
No, I think. I think last time I bought something like that was probably at a gig, and I think we'd had a few beers. It was in me actually. We'd had a few beers, and they had like a big discography thing, and it like you said, it had everything that's all the bells and whistles. It was all very nicely done. And I was kind of like, I think we were actually doing an interview with them for Rock My World, as it happens. And, like I said, we'd been sat there drinking with the guys for like 2 hours, and I was a fan of them growing up, and I thought, I'll buy it. But that's obviously a very big exception there, isn't it, to go into the shop and actually buying one?
Well, again, it's back to one of our earlier podcasts, is subsistence money. You know what I mean? Those albums, a lot of them, as Chuck said, a lot of bands, they may as well just go straight to digital. But on the road, it's those brick and mortar albums that help you along the way.
I mean, I just did a record for a band last year, and they're signed to an indie with major distribution, but their deal was only digital if they weren't going to bother getting it put into brick and mortar stores. The label's doing this with every band, and then if they needed CDs for tour, they could order them through the label, and they get them at a discounted rate. But that was the only way they were getting hard product done.
Yeah, and the thing is with that, and it's back to being self-sustaining on the road. Generally, you underorder. You know, you if you strike it lucky in the first, you've got a 20 date tour, and the first 10 dates you've sold out, you're screwed. Because all you want is more CDs. But you can usually gauge it by the first 3 or 4 gigs. Look at how many pre-sales you've got for the gigs coming up, and try and get them out as quick as possible from the record companies. But bands more and more are ordering the brick and mortar versions. But you're right. If you're not going to bother putting anything into the cover or the art, come on. You'd be better off giving a really tasty QR code or a nice little hologram little ticket which you buy for $10, so you get that, so you can put that on your wall, and then you get a download. And if that's never been done, I don't mind handing that out to one of the bands that are listening today.
Yeah. Well, some sort of poster with a QR code on the back, you think?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you get that, so you buy the poster. It's like $10 for the poster. No, it's $10 for the album. But you get that, and you get this on there, and it's not a bad idea.
Well, an interesting story. Speaking of CD and stuff sales, I mean, vinyl is set to outsell CDs for the first time since 1986, at least in the United States.
Awesome.
Yeah, they said
we knew it was coming.
Yeah, I mean the story states that vinyl earned $224.1 million from 8.6 million units in the first half of 2019. The CD numbers are 247.9 from 18.6 million units, which shows. Now you're looking at a huge price difference too, if you look at those numbers.
And also, we can take the fact that vinyl's selling away from the hipsters, because it was for years and years. Oh, it's just the hipsters, man. They're growing beards and buying turntables and hanging out on Saturday afternoons with their friends, drinking stupid coffee and listening to vinyl. Well,
out of jam jars.
Out of jam jars, and it's pretty obvious that isn't the case.
Yeah, but I still try to figure that out. I mean, I'm mixing a record right now for a band, and I just got an email yesterday saying, "Hey, by the way, do mastering for digital and for LP. We're going to do an LP or do vinyl." And I was like, I don't know if it's still got into the mainstream yet, because I don't know. I mean, people are on Spotify. They're streaming stuff. Nobody's got a LP or a vinyl player in their car. Like
it's coming.
I bet someone has. But I mean, look, we've just all said that you want us to buy the product physically. Well, we want it to look nice and have a bit of extra with the packaging. They're doing that with vinyl. That's the thing.
Oh, you're right. I mean, my problem with vinyl is the pricing. It's still, I wanted to buy, I don't know, last Foo Fighters record on vinyl. It was like $40 for the album on vinyl.
Yeah, it ain't
and
cheap.
I was like, man, I can't. I'd rather have the CD, for audio quality, just for me working in the studio industry. But, I find I still listen to vinyl. It's all old shit. It's all my old vinyl because I haven't really purchased much new stuff.
Well, I just realized as I was sat here, we were talking. I just described that guy, that hipster guy with the beard and a stupid cup of coffee, and that's actually me. So can we move on from?
Absolutely.
Can we move on, please? Because I've just realised that is actually my Saturday mornings. Next.
Well, we've got the VR thing going on, haven't we? Which is it's been pretty interesting.
What is that? Fill me in.
So what we've had is Panic at the Disco releasing a VR show.
Really?
So, yeah. And the thing is, honestly, man, I think it makes a great deal of sense. Because, like we were saying, is what are people going to buy? Well, considering a couple of weeks back we were talking about the ridiculous hologram expenses, buying a show where you can watch it in VR seems like a lot more sense to me. And they're charging £10, which to me doesn't seem too ridiculous. I mean, that's the price of an album.
£10 as a download. As a download.
Yeah.
Huh. So Brandon Urie in my living room, $10, giving it all.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm gonna watch
deal.
this. I mean, I love Panic at the Disco. My kid is into them and got me into it, and I know Brendan.
I can play.
I can. I want to check this out because they said they shot it 6 cameras at O2 Arena. So I'm interested. I didn't even look at the free sample that they put up, but I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I'd rather watch, maybe if it's good, I'd rather watch that than buying a DVD. Like, I think they have a new outlet right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this seems quite interesting because, like you said, you can watch the DVD. But I mean, if this has been shot from 6 cameras, presumably you can, bounce around to various cameras. It means that you can move your head around and get a different, angled view and stuff like that. And yeah, it genuinely seems like a good use of the technology, to be honest. And I'm kind of surprised it's taken this long for someone to do it.
Yeah, I wonder how. So, I mean, because technically the only thing you're really going to be able to do is watch it on your computer. I wonder if they're going to get this technology into...
You can do it on your phone as well. If you.
Well, but I mean, like a TV to sit down and watch. I mean, I love to just sit on my couch and watch concerts. I mean, so it'd be interesting if this... I mean, this could go into movies and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, now that the gaming, I mean, Microsoft... Minecraft being, I think it's called Minecraft Earth or whatever, where you can play in VR through the game. I saw a demo of it. It looked insane. So, I mean, I think the music industry needs to do something, and this could definitely shoot some blood in the veins.
Well, you could, and I mean, I'm going to do a massive segue here. you could give these almost as like a gift voucher for Christmas presents, you know what I mean? So you can go and watch Panic at the Disco today, Christmas Day, with this voucher, right? So you put it in and there it is, and it's a Christmas present. And the reason I did that as a Christmas present segue, I've got to say this, guys. It means mistletoe, but of course, there are Christmas albums that are released. Guess who's releasing a Christmas album? Rob Halfrod.
Oh, please.
Come on! Hang on a second, though. Hang on.
I don't know.
Hang on. Listen. He's the metal god. But what I did read was, which is insane. He's got classics on there like Hark. Hang on. Hark the Herald Angels Sing, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, Little Town of Bethlehem. And the track that I heard was Donna and Blitzen. So I was like, what the Jesus?
Is he doing the metal?
Metal. It's Judas Priest, basically.
It's my God.
Yeah, because at first I thought, Rob Halfrod, rest you Mary. Right, I was like, that'll be lovely. No, Jella and Blitzen. And it's like, oh my good God.
But I guess the metal community needs an album. I don't remember.
Well, every year, you know what?
We had Don't Let the Bells End.
Well, right. Well, listen, Halfrod has probably seen the amount of money that the Trans-Siberian Orchestra earns every bloody year, and that is cash, nothing but cash. I mean, the thing is in England, Chuck, and I know you know this, but maybe some of our audience in the US don't. Christmas hits have always been massive in the UK. There was the band Slade, who obviously Come On Feel the Noise from Quiet Riot. Slade, they have a huge hit. Oh, there it is, Merry Christmas. And another guy, Roy Wood, who was in the original, who was in The Move, who became ELO, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, those guys, they wait for Christmas and they go, November 17th, November 18th, and they start playing it. And at that point, it's mailbox money. Every Thursday, they'll go to their letterbox, and there it is. There is massive amounts of cash because in England, Mike, it's like religion, isn't it? They play Christmas hits non-stop.
Dude, and starts in October now.
Oh, okay. So October. There you go. So they're making even more money. But Chuck, I've lived
I'd
here 30
rather
years.
hear Priest than Drake Christmas album.
Oh, well, there you go.
I mean, honestly, man, if I hear, so here it is, Merry Christmas, one more time, I'm gonna I'm going to strangle an elf or something. Like, it's bar humbug, whatever.
But Mike, would that be bad?
It starts too soon. It really does.
Would that be bad for his elf? Sorry.
Hey. Right. But no, the thing is, though, he will make a killing of it. And like I said, when the Darkness brought out their one, like in, what was it, like 2006, 2007, something like that, everyone was like, yeah, but everyone was like, oh, for God's sake, really, and everyone knew it was like a pure cash cow. And everyone was like, cynical cash grab. But they're still playing it now. They don't play any other Darkness records anymore. But that'll be on Christmas.
I've got an idea. So Mariah Carey had a massive hit. Yeah, that Mariah Carey. This is not a metal guy that no one's heard of. Mariah Carey had a huge hit here with All I Want for Christmas Is You. I propose we do a metal version of that. Let's put it together prior to Christmas and put it out on our channel and see what people think of it. What do you think of that?
I think that would be stupendous. Let's do it. I'll start it today.
I mean, absolutely serious. Because we can smash it out. I'll whack down the guitars. We'll detune it all. I think
I was going to say let's go full Lordy on that.
Oh, it'd be killer. It'd be really good.
Yeah, and I mean like Scandinavian dodgy masks Lordy, not the other Lordy, obviously.
I think it'll work. I personally think that at the very least it'll get people talking, and I actually do like that song, if I'm being honest. It's very Motown.
Yeah, it is
Motown-esque. It's lovely. And the bells are ringing and all that malarkey. I think we should do a metal version. Just throwing it out there, boys.
Let's do it. Let's start it. After this podcast, let's talk.
And how long before we get copyright claimed on YouTube after we've done that? You reckon about 5 minutes?
We won't. We can put it out. We'll put it out through one of the channels that'll do the copyright clearance for us.
There you go. See, we're already thinking ahead, and this is for the metal family. This is going to be. This is nothing to do with pop music. And as I say, it's a great song. It really reminds me of the old Motown classics. But if we do a metal version, am I flogging this to death now, guys? Because I think you are. All right, I'll shut up.
Let's just do it.
Let's just do it and shut up, Tony. Okay, I got you.
So what else have we had this week then? I mean, there's the one that's a bit off rock topic, isn't there? That's the conspiracy theory corner time.
Go on then, Mike.
So everyone remembers seeing the whole ASAP Rocky getting arrested in Sweden kind of thing. And...
Oh, whoa! Before we go into that, the only reason he got out is because President Trump said he had to get out. Okay, let's never forget that. I'm not talking politics, but let's get the real reason how he got out of jail. Okay, next.
Not the fact that he looked very innocent in the actual overall debacle, or at least not long-term jail time guilty anyway. And we all know Sweden's a bit weird at times, but even still. His lawyer was shot twice, once in the head and once in the chest, which doesn't at all look suspicious.
Now, is this his U.S. lawyer or the guy who was retained in Sweden?
The guy that was retained in Sweden.
Yeah, it was a Swedish lawyer.
Yeah. So keep in mind that this is Sweden. It's not like it's not an area of high random gun crime.
Right.
This is not like he just happened to be on the wrong street as someone was going by firing something off because he was in the wrong area of town. This was in Stockholm. This is in their capital, and one in the head and one in the chest. Like that's some sketchy stuff.
That obviously is a hit. I mean, it's otherwise.
They have arrested a couple people for questioning. But we haven't heard anything more, and they're calling it a one-time incident kind of thing, isolated incident.
Yeah, I know. This is the thing, isn't it? Is that it came out. It's quite obviously clear that something went on there. Because again, if you're driving past and randomly shooting or something like that, you don't get one in the head and one in the chest.
Well, you only got to look at Big Papi, the baseball player for the Red Sox. He accidentally got shot. Whilst, where was he? I can't remember. In Puerto Rico somewhere, shot like 8 times, sat at a cafe, by accident. And then it all turns out that it's actually cops that have shot him that have been hired by a drug guy who Big Papi's seeing his girlfriend. Is like, here we go. It took about 4 days. But as soon as it happened, I went, that's a hit. I mean,
what's interesting about this story, though, is Olsen, he was only representing him before the trial. He didn't represent ASAP during the trial for the assault.
Huh.
So why would they hit him when he wasn't the actual trial lawyer?
Maybe he was representing Big Papi as well.
I mean, it might be that he's just pissed somebody else off, and it just happens that it's just it's just a coincidence that he has anything to do with A$AP Rocky.
Dude, you got to be careful. I mean, we all remember what happened to the singer of Lamb of God, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that guy. I thought he was done for. What happened? It was manslaughter, right?
Yeah, because the guy died after the show.
After the show, yeah. I think he threw him off the stage. The kid hit his head, and I mean, absolutely. I feel for the boy's family and for the young fella that died. But you can only imagine how that went down that night, and that's the terrifying side. And you're going to need a lawyer, and you're going to need a lawyer that night. So you got to find somebody.
I think artists have to be aware when they're in different countries to just be cool.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like Lamb of God's a rough one because it was in the heat of the moment on the stage. The guy jumped up on the stage.
Yeah.
And like how many guys have thrown someone off the stage? There was that viral video from like a year ago where the guy literally, I can't remember which band it was, literally kicked the guy off the stage.
Dude, that Judas Priest show that I went to with my mom, they kicked one of the bouncer guys ran on stage. Somebody tried to jump on stage, and he literally kicked him like foot to chest off the stage into the crowd.
Jesus.
Like, I mean, whatever. This is 30 years ago, whatever. More than
well,
that.
that precedes obviously Dimebag Darrell. You got to be careful, and some of those bouncers are rough for rough's sake. We know that some of them are complete and utter assholes and need they need taking in the back and taking a real shoe in. But I got to be honest. I mean, I've done enough gigs on big stages where I've looked to the right, and I've seen. I actually remember playing a gig somewhere like Hungary. Not long ago, a couple of years ago. And there was a guy who walked to the front. And I don't scare that easy, but he stood at the front and he was so muscled up and he just kept pointing. And he was pointing at the drummer and then he was pointing at me. And he had the look in his eye that he was going to bring it. He was just going to jump up and it was going to go off. And we had this crew guy with us and he's just too gentle for his own good. I think he was going to go, oh, I'll just give him a cuddle. He'll be fine. No, you got to get this guy by the neck and get him out of there because people get fired up. They're drunk. He's possibly high. And for whatever reason, he takes a dislike to you. You're done.
Well, this is it. Like sometimes it is better for them to be a bit rough. And, and obviously not in this, Lamb of God case, but in general, like, I mean, I know I've told you this story, Tony, about the time that the Hindu invaded the stage when we were playing. Yeah. And the thing is, at the stage, I was playing drums. There was a backdrop at the stage. I end up going backwards off the back of the stage and taking down the back line with me. So this was not. Yeah, I know.
Only you, Mike, could get attacked by a Hindu. I mean. Good. I'm talking about this guy who looked like RoboCop and he had bits of metal hanging out the side of his head. You get attacked by a gang of girls on a Hindu. Dude, you are now my hero. You know that.
Well, yeah, I don't think I was the sound guy's hero, mind. Putting my taking the equipment out. But I mean, the point is that sometimes the security can be a bit lax, right? And the thing is, for what happened with Lamb of God, the guy should never have gotten onto the stage in the first place.
Well, again, it's a tough one because you don't want to come across heavy-handed,
but you don't want a Dimebag Darrell incident.
That's exactly right. I mean, there's many. You guys people listening today. You go on the internet. You can see one after another. You see Nikki Sixx pointing to this bouncer saying, "That's the guy right there. Do that guy." I mean, that's frightening. This guy, Nikki Sixx has got 10,000 people in his hand and he's pointing to one particular bouncer. And yes, he was being rough, but that right there is playing with someone's life. You have to be very, very, very careful. It's a tightrope, but you don't want to get hurt and you don't want anybody else to get hurt. So You can go right back to the Rolling Stones with the Hells Angels taking care of that gig in San Francisco, wherever they were, or somewhere on the West Coast. And a couple of guys were killed. They were stabbed. And it was because the security they'd hired for the day were heavy-handed. And that set a precedent. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. Well, look, guys, we've covered a lot today. I've learned a lot, and I can't wait to talk to Chuck about Mariah Carey.
We're starting this ASAP.
Well,
no
look,
pun intended.
No, I like that. There's a segue. Jesus, do you want to go back to him? No, okay.
No.
All right. Well, listen, everybody, I want to thank everyone for listening. Look, don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. And as always, you can catch every single one of our episodes on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, InTune Radio, and Stitcher. Chuck, Mike, as always, thank you so much. And for everybody out there, we'll see you next week.